go ahead and implement that idea more successfully than yours, I don't believe it could be that great. Because if I go back to my beginning point, it is not the idea that succeeds, it is the individual. Businesses do not flourish on their own. They need the passion, the drive, the commitment, the determination of the individual. It is the individual who breathes life into the idea. So just by telling somebody else, I don't believe somebody else will ever have the passion that you will have. So because of that, in 30 years of my life, I have never been afraid to share that idea with anybody. And if somebody does, and to this day, nobody has ever literally gone out and copied the idea. Now, maybe the message in there is because all the ideas I come up with was shit anyway. So maybe there's the answer. No. So I think, personally, I'm not going to be paranoid. I'm not a great believer of the kind of whole patent structure. So, a lot of people go out there, get an idea, and think, great, let me get it patented, let me go and spend a fortune, etc. Do I really believe in that? No, I don't. And simply because until I've proven the idea to work, I'm not going to waste my money. Because if you go to one patent lawyer and you get it registered, I will guarantee you go to another patent lawyer and said, if I wanted to get round that patent, what would I need to do? And do you know what? It takes the guy 10 minutes to work out that if you change the fabric, if you change this design, or there's a little quirk here, it gets around the patent. So what do I really achieve? So only until I've actually tried and tested would I even bother patenting it, because I'm going to waste my money. I think the key thing for me is if you have an idea that you believe in, number one, if you're not prepared to take that risk, you're never going to do it anyway. So at some point you have to get to that position. The only way I believe you will get to that position is you get the idea, you put a plan together, you create a business plan, and then you test the assumptions. And I suppose to me, the best piece of advice I can give you, the only assumption to me that really and truly matters is, will somebody buy this that I don't know? Not my friends or my family or my brother or my sister, but if I went to the open market, is this a product or service that somebody independently is ready and willing to pay for? Because I'll give you a really sort of very quick example of a friend of mine who approached me with a great business idea, and I think this is quite typical of some entrepreneurs. So here's a guy, he actually knows me very well, he's been a social friend of mine for many years, and he approached me and said, James, I really feel embarrassed because I know you get this all the time, but I actually have an idea, I want to pitch you. I think, okay, well you can join the queue with the other 1,000, but I'll give you 20 minutes, let's have the pitch. Anyway, so he's bought this, embroidery machine, and he's come up with this idea that he wants to go to people who have normal clothes, like you've got a regular jacket, and he wants to embroider logos and motifs on your existing garments. So, I had a kind of a dinner jacket that had the velvet thing, and he just put a bit of velvet, like kind of purple stitching that just made it a bit unique. Anyway, he said, what do you think of the idea? I said, you know what, actually I can see there must be people out there who've got clothes that they don't wear anymore, but you can jazz them up a bit. It's not very expensive. I think you should go ahead and do it. So, and he said, great. So I said, what I suggest you do, make half a dozen samples and take them to a few shops. Anyway, I meet the guy 3 months later, and I said, oh, by the way, how's the idea? He said, I made the 6 samples that you said, but then I realised that actually if I took only menswear, they might say, what about women's wear? So I'm currently working on the ladies' wear section. I said, well, I'm not sure I would do that, because I could frankly just do visuals of ladies' wear. But he said, no, I want to physically do the ladies' wear. Okay, off he goes. 3 months later, he's now built, a kind of ladies' wear range. I meet him again. I said, how's the plan going? Have you met any suppliers? Haven't done that yet because I'm just working on my website right now. Okay, I'm not sure you really need that. You can have a holding page. What I need to do is you should go and talk to suppliers. Anyway, no, I've got to have a site, because if I show them the stuff and they go to my site and it doesn't exist, I'm going to look Mickey. Okay, go ahead and do the site. So he's now working on the site. See him 3 months later, how's it going? He said, the site's looking fantastic. Haven't spoken to a customer yet because we've got a photo shoot coming up next week, because I've got some models coming in. I've got to get the right pictures, because if they look at my site and my pictures aren't great, so, okay, I've got to do that. Okay, 3 months go by, we've got a photo shoot, we've got models, all that sort of stuff. The site's looking fantastic. Have you spoken to a customer yet? Not yet, because I thought when I take my samples out, I need proper suit carriers, with my logo on there, because I can't just walk in. Okay, so now we're waiting for this supplier to come from Italy with the suit carriers, with the logos and all the rest of it. Anyway, another 3 months go by. Have you seen a customer yet? No, I've just realised that I want logos on my buttons because I want to have my branding and my logo on the buttons because this is going to be a bespoke garment. Anyway, eventually I see him 3 months later. I said, have you seen a customer yet? He said, I haven't seen a customer. I've run out of money now. I'm calling it a day. Now, absolute true story, because the moral of the story is so many entrepreneurs, to me, go too far down the product range. If it was me, I'm not exaggerating, I would have produced 3 samples and literally got on the road and start knocking on doors. On every other point he raised, I would have created visuals to use as a way of demonstrating the product. So if I want to show personalised buttons, I don't need to make them. If I want suit carriers, I can design them, on Photoshop. If I want to create a women's wear range, I can do that. But every entrepreneur I meet, they want to do everything other than talk to the customer. For some reason, the customer is the biggest fear. To me, I would start there, talk to the customer first, because if he says, I'm prepared to buy it, bingo, the chances are the customer will say, it's a great idea, but, and that's the but I want to hear. It's too expensive, it's too bright, it's too whatever it is, because that's how you evolve and test the idea. Use the customer to help you gauge your proposition, because if the customer says yes, that is the best evidence that you will have that your plan is ready to succeed.
We'll ask at the end again and we'll see how many people are. But what I would like to ask you, to go to the core of, what was the key question in your minds that you're having or had when considering to start your business or not? This is your chance actually, to get free advice from the most experienced people in business. Normally you have to stand in a queue for 1,000 people. Now you can be ahead of the queue and ask a question. Yeah, the guy in the red shirt.
Can you hear me from here?
I can hear you, absolutely.
The
Yeah.
mic is
My
coming.
name is Eric, and the main question I had before was what sort of experience... Thank you very much. My name is Eric, and my question I thought initially was what sort of experience should I get before I set up my own business? And you have sort of answered that. But another question which I had was, is it useful to work with somebody else's startup before you set up your own? Thank you.
About time you took a question, Debbie, please.
Well, that's exactly what I did. So I started a social work recruitment business. I was the first employee in the social work market. So there were only 2 of us on day one. And I think for me that was vital in the journey to where I am today, because I saw that business from a very small business right through to the market leader. We had, at the time that I left, as James said, it was a 50 million turnover company. There were 65 staff just recruiting into the UK social work recruitment market. And that business went through some serious growing pains along the way. Mistakes were made. I was part of that. I progressed through that quite organically through the growth of the business. And I think what that's given me is a kind of roadmap now for what I'm doing with my own business. And again, it means that the risk is mitigated because I've kind of experienced a lot of it firsthand under someone else, with someone else's investment and under someone else's business as an employee with a guaranteed income. And now it's, I'm ready to put my money where my mouth is because I've got that track record there from having worked for someone else.
Okay, the gentleman.
He looks like a man with a bit of experience to me.
What, are you trying to say I'm old or something? Thank you. Mark and Philogov. 2 or 3 things really. You said a few things about capital and putting capital into the business. What happens if you don't have cash, and how do you address that? Because not a lot of people will be in a position where they're wanting to start something but they don't have cash. You've also said get the experience and don't go in too early, but a lot of people are quite young perhaps and have extremely good ideas. I mean, there's some very famous examples there at the moment that have turned into billion-dollar companies. And the third thing is at the other extreme of that, I believe there are possibly scales of entrepreneurship. All of you are currently involved in higher turnover things, very successful and all the rest of it, but for some people, and perhaps many people today, who are starting businesses for a range of reasons, maybe don't have that as a sort of aspiration, or maybe the business that they want to start can be successful for them in that it will make a living, but it doesn't necessarily reach those IPO and multi-million pound heights. So what would you say about people at a smaller scale?
Couple of good questions there. I mean, I think firstly, when you look at the business idea, the first thing you should do is ask yourself a question. Is this a hobby? Is this a boutique? Or is this a business? Now, I think there's nothing wrong with either one of them other than not knowing. So I think what I've experienced is somebody who runs a boutique thinks it's a business has got it wrong. Somebody who comes up with an idea that is not a business but a hobby that thinks it's a business is wrong. So if you come up with an idea and it's a hobby and something you can do in the evenings that makes you money, that gives you an additional income, I think it's absolutely fine as long as you accept that. What makes it a problem is when it's a hobby and you try and turn it into a business, because it doesn't work. I think if you have no cash, then probably you need to work for somebody else and get some cash. Because to start a business on a shoestring with no cash, again, my advice would be, what's the hurry? What is the race? Because I think all you're trying to do is fail quickly. I don't think there's any need to do that. My advice is be patient, be prepared, and do it right. Give yourself every reason to succeed, not every reason to fail. So doing it with nothing, I think, is a little bit of a risk. I think if you're sitting there and you're thinking, I don't want to build a huge business, I think that's fine, because at the end of the day, Debbie's business is only in year 4, so it's not a lifetime. Faisal's literally in less than 1 year, and Spike's year 3. So these are not businesses that essentially are kind of, many, many years old. They're relatively young businesses, but they've taken an idea from scratch with nothing, with a clean piece of paper, and actually have built significant sized businesses. Now, having said that, Debbie's is probably 20 million turnover. Faisal is on his 2nd transaction, and Spike is generating how much in funds?
120 million.
120 million in funds into the products that he's creating, but in year 3. So the point I'm making is you can do that, but I think if you're going to be in businesses like that, you have to believe in your own dream, because it's nobody else's dream, it's your own passion. If you believe you can be big, you have a chance, but if you believe it's a boutique, you won't be generating in the millions. So, I suppose for me on closing, it really and truly comes down to you. Businesses are not about great ideas, great business plans, they're about you. It is you who breathe life into the concept, it's you who build the business, and it is you who will make it succeed or fail, not the plan.
Let me ask a burning question myself, actually, and then I would like to ask 2 or 3 questions, and get a portfolio of questions, and maybe start with Spike as a response. Okay?
Harry, before you start, can I just say, and for those reasons, I'm out.
Out of what?
That's right.
Not out of business, I hope. You're allowed to ask some questions.
Of course you are.
You talked about the business plan earlier, and you said, well, everything will change compared to what you've formulated your business plan. You've also said a person with a passion, and so on. Students are typically trained to make a business plan. So can you comment, or any of the others, what is the function actually of having a business plan, of making a business plan, and what actually makes a business plan? Or does it just have to be short?
Sure. Who would like to take that?
And Spike, can I ask you to?
Yeah, well, first of all, you need to know what your business is, and then secondly, you need to know what it does, and then people want to know how it's going to make money, and then they also want to know what can go wrong. And so you need to better get those 4 key points in place, really. And then, obviously, once you get on that path and you get on that journey, things do change, the market changes, things take a different course. And you need to always know how and when to actually change the action and change the plan. And if you've built a product that's wrong, we did in our first year, you think the market wants it, but for some reason it doesn't. The worst thing you can do is to spend the next 3 years justifying it and defending it and put more and more time in. And what you actually need to do is cut your losses quickly and move on to something else.
Any of the others that would like to comment on that?
I would just say keep it relatively concise, and you can probably use that time trying to find your first customer, which would be more useful getting that business up and running. And I've seen 50-page plans, I've seen 10-page plans. I think I get the same